It is pretty difficult to balance life these days. All the things. There is work, there is life, there could be kids, there's marriage, there's school, there's health, there's Netflix, there's laundry, there's more laundry, and then there's some more laundry. And when you talk to a straight couple, you learn pretty quickly that the balance isn't air quotes equal. And a lot of people find different ways to do it, but there are some things that follow traditional gender norms. Kind of an interesting question of who does what in the data, and an interesting question when you think about the anecdotal experience of people going out there and living their lives. There's a really interesting series that we're going to talk about today. It's called The Division of Labor, and one of the journalists who works at the Purse is going to join us to talk about it. Alicia Adamczyk has been with the Purse for, I don't know, what, 6 months, 9 months, or something like that. Welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to
So,
be here.
I have read many editions of Division of Labor, but for those who haven't yet, what will they find when they read this series?
Yeah, so division of labor came out of honestly just a question I was having with my editor, Lindsay, a conversation really about our own um, lives at home and who kind of does what between our husbands and with kids and things like that. And so we really wanted to talk to real couples, see how they're handling it. How do they work and handle childcare? And as you said, the laundry, how are they managing all of these things? Is there a difference between, say, previous generations and younger ones now and how they think about it,
Hmm.
and we just really wanted to get at this question of what division of labor looks like
Hmm.
in the household in now 2026.
You have a long background as a financial journalist covering all these sorts of things, as do I. What is the most logical connection you can make between the division of labor and the personal finance questions that couples have to navigate?
I mean, I think they all kind of go hand in hand, and they are both evolving a lot. We generally at the Purse focus on women and women's financial lives. Obviously, there's been so much change there over the past, I guess, couple decades at this point. Um, what hasn't changed as much, at least if you look at the data, is the work women are doing in the home, in addition
Yeah.
to, paid labor outside of it. So we just we wanted to get a look and see, is that true? Are women still handling, again, in this sort of very stereotypical way, all the work inside the home and the childcare and also earning money? And how does that affect their relationships, if it does? Or are, husbands, if it is a heterosexual couple, are they, doing more now
Yeah.
inside the home to help out?
And it's not so simple to say that because often women do the childcare, it doesn't explain away the gender wage gap, but it's a part of it. If you're the person who has to pick the kids up at daycare, you can't do an overtime shift. You can't stay and do an additional project on the side of your desk. There's just a real reality there based on what's going on at home.
Oh, certainly. And you see that. I mean, I think where the gender wage gap really expands, at least in the US, is age 32. And again, generally speaking, if you're looking at the broader picture, that's when childcare really comes into the picture. So just wanted to see if that was true for these real families and see how they're dealing with that. Are the parents stepping back from work? Are they looking for different types of work to deal with their kids? Or how do they make it work between themselves, switching drop off, switching who's picking up from daycare, switching all of these things around, and how that plays out in their careers?
What have you found are some of the most relevant and resonant areas for the couples that you profile over and above like childcare? Because that's obviously massive. But when you read the series, there's a lot of interesting ones that people throw out there that you think, oh, really? You have to have like a conversation about that? Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because you might read it and say, oh, like I have that figured out at my house. But then when I sit back and think about it, I'm like, wait, do I really? I think a big one is meal prep. And we actually have another separate series on that because it's such a big thing in households. Is just who is handling what? How do we decide who's cooking, who's cleaning up? One of our most recent editions of this division of labor, I thought really did a nice job of showcasing this, where it was just such a busy week that, one of the parents was also training for a marathon at the same time. They're doing all these other things. And they were like, yeah, we're just picking up food tonight. Like, that's all it's going to be. And we're so happy about it.
There are certain things that find their way onto the page and certain things that don't. You're talking to these people and getting probably a more nuanced look. What would you say behind the scenes you pick up in terms of the tension? So, as people are answering this questionnaire, it's like,
Mhm.
I do 80% of the things. But that isn't necessarily what shows in your piece. It's like, more like who does what when. What's unsaid? What's unwritten in the background?
That's a good question. And I think we do write this sometimes in the little intros we do. We try to be very transparent about it. But I mean, often the person writing in to volunteer their time, you can imagine, is probably also the person doing a lot of the division of labor, taking on a lot of stuff within the household. And so we really want both partners within a couple to sit down and write out their day and tell us what they're doing. That doesn't always work out in practice. And often you'll see one person will write, a full paragraph for everything, and the other person will write five
Right.
words. And
Right.
so that is an interesting thing. And sometimes you get couples both are completely game to do it and happy to do it. And, I enjoy reading those ones, but
I am married to a dude. You have profiled at least one same sex couple that I saw. What stood out to you in that piece?
yeah, I think at this point now we have profiled three same-sex couples, and I don't want to say everything is amazing and hunky-dory and there are no, tensions there, but they do tend to say like we don't subscribe to these traditional gender roles, so we each have things we like doing and we do those instead of what would
Yeah.
be, expected of us, right? And I think what's interesting is that the heterosexual couples that we profile who kind of take that same approach, they seem generally, I don't want to say happier, but again, they just seem
Mm.
to be like they have it more figured out. They're like, we don't do like I only do this, I only do that. It's a little bit of what each of us likes, and we just
Yeah.
take it from there.
Yeah. I think it's easier, honestly, being in a same-sex couple in this regard, because you don't have the like a you should do that. And it's
Right.
interest, it's skill, it's also values. So I have a
Mm,
very strong value about sit-down dinner. I mean, I was raised with five kids. It's how you do it. I'm the primary cook. And so I make that happen. My husband has a very strong value about clean and tidy home, which
mm.
I don't really care so much, but he does. So he leads that and I leads this and it kind of works. And we have the freedom to identify that and we're forced to talk about it because there's
Mhm.
no society to look at.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I mean, if you want to fill out division of labor for us
Oh,
one time, we'd
fantastic. I would
we'd
love
love
to
to
send me
hear
the
it.
thing. I'll do the thing. I would love it. What do you see as being the role of managing the family finances? As because it's often something that people include there. It can
Mhm.
be a lot of work to do the budget and sort out the retirement savings and all those kinds of things.
Oh, totally. And that's a really good question. I mean, so we feature one day in the life. So we don't, unless you're deciding to handle your finances that day, we don't necessarily get super deep into that in this series in particular. However, I will say, I think our audience generally really cares about their money. They care about their personal finances. So they're generally the ones interested in handling all of that, planning for retirement, planning the investments. Again, I often see that the partner who reaches out to us, our reader, likes to be in charge of that. They find a lot of like fulfillment from it, and their partners, again, generally speaking, tend to be more hands off and kind of let them, do what they're gonna do.
I notice as I'm thinking about it, I have a bias towards the view that both people in the relationship work. That's not the
Mm,
case, right? It is perfectly appropriate and not uncommon to have a stay-at-home dad or a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home human for a period of
mhm.
time. What have you noticed about that and how that fits with the zeitgeist?
Yeah, that's a really good question. The most recent couple we featured had a stay-at-home dad. The mom worked full-time. She worked from home, but again, when you're working, you're not necessarily able to do chores or childcare pickup, and it seemed to really work for them. He really enjoyed spending time with the kids. He also had, time on his own to work toward maybe the next thing he wanted to do. And I just thought it was a really wonderful sort of example of, again, you don't have to subscribe to sort of what we think of as these traditional gender roles in the home, like what works for your family works.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's leave it there because that's kind of the magic of it. Thank you so much for joining us to talk about it.
Yeah, thank you.
The series is called Division of Labor. It is a feature on the purse. And joining us was Alicia Adamczyk. She is one of the financial journalists behind the purse and behind this series specifically.